exactly what woman wouldn't drop any normal man for Superman also? That just possibly the most ridiculous thing in the movie, that Lois is like so mad at him that she would hang on to Cyclops instead of go back to Superman. Come on.
Yeah, it's unlikely, I would say. Unlikely at best.
It was an interesting idea though, and one of the first times they kind of started trying to deal with Superman in a family, and like an American family, like, yeah, you're there, but there's a new dad, and your kid has maybe some genetic issues that came from you, and maybe you and the wife are not on, even together anymore. And like, I get that. And that was an interesting idea, but the way that they had to make Superman be irresponsible or downright stupid in order to lead to those choices.
Yeah.
Bad writing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how hard it would be to write a Superman. I bet fairly difficult. But it is your job, so if you write a bad one, I don't think it's weird for me to say that you wrote a bad one.
I'm sure someone got a very big check for writing that crappy movie.
Yeah. Most definitely. Which is weird because, like, I never really hear people hate on that movie very much, but I hear people hate on, like, the new Superman movies quite a bit, and I'm like, I think they're pretty good.
I think there's a lot of good in them. I think that they went for Superman killing somebody way too early. I think that Pa Kent made no damn sense, especially the fact that Superman
let the tornado hit me.
It's okay. I know you could save me, but I'm trying to teach you a lesson, son. And what? No, come on. Like, families deal with consequences. They protect each other and they deal with what happens afterwards. Like, if you're going to tell me that Clark is such an obedient son because he was raised by Midwestern farmers that instilled these values in him, you're going to tell me that he's also not ethical enough and good enough to know when not to obey. Like, the whole point of Superman being a responsible being with all these powers was that he was raised by people that were humble and hardworking and valued, life and protecting others and community. And the things that he embodied as an adult were not just because he was good at heart, but because he was in a good environment. You need both to make someone that good, someone that can overcome that kind of temptation that power would give you.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that scene, I'm trying to think of like a reason why that scene would make sense, but it's just not. I can't think of it. Not to mention that Superman could also save him without anyone ever even seeing what happened, really.
Yeah. It's a tornado. You fly a car in front of you, between you and the people, pick him up, keep going, and set him down a little ways away. Come on. Like, when you're watching it and going, is he actually stupid? Is Superman actually a moron? And is his father even dumber? Like, you should not be thinking that in a Superman movie.
No. Yeah, it was very bizarre. Yeah, I agree. The murder came way too early. Well, it's just there are only a few bad guys in Superman's, like a bad guy wheelhouse that match him physically, and I think it's such a weird thing to try to do one of those like right off the bat.
Yeah, I know that.
I know that he probably just didn't want to do Lex Luthor again because it's just like it's too much
been
Luthor again.
5 movies of Luthor.
But there are more bad guys than that.
I mean, Brainiac is one that people have been clamoring for, and in the Krypton show, which I do recommend, even if it's.
I've started watching it. It's pretty good.
I like it, man. I really enjoyed it, and there were parts that were infuriating, but for good reasons. Like, these characters are, they're making a bad choice, but it's because they don't have good choices, and that is storytelling that I appreciate. Like, sometimes you don't have any good choices. Sometimes it's a choice between, starving or drowning. Okay, well, I guess I'll choose starving then, because that buys me a few minutes to go and try to solve that one if I'm not drowning. And you're kind of going from one catastrophe to the next. But yeah, I mean, there are choices you could look at that could have been better in it. But all cases, you could look at it, look at the characters, and see why they did it.
Yeah.
Seg-El.
That's very rare in movies and TV shows.
Yeah, and Seg-El is...
Yeah. I was going to say, it's oftentimes my biggest gripe with movies and TV shows where you're just like, why would that happen like that? Why did that just go down like that?
Yeah, a person living in this world at this time period would not make these choices. But I know that with the Superman thing, people complained that the Brandon Routh movie, he didn't have any physical villains, and so they wanted him to punch something, and so that's why they brought Zod and the Kryptonians. But it's like, okay, what about Bizarro? What about let's see, Mongol, any of the Kryptonians from let's stay away from Kryptonians. If I'm going to say let's not do Zod and Kryptonian, we'll stay away from those. But in recent times, Bendis made Rogol or whatever, who was actually a terrorist and partially maybe responsible for the destruction of Krypton.
What about Lobo, man?
Lobo, he shows up in Krypton, and I was a kid who saw a comic book come to life, and as much in that moment as when I saw the first Superman movie. It was I think the guy was a really good Lobo. I think the writing for him was okay. They had to create their own mythos for him in that one. Not that he wasn't the person who executed his entire planet.
Yeah.
But they depowered him quite a bit. They sort of played around with his bounty hunter ethics a bit in a way that wasn't, perfectly in accordance with the comics, but that's okay, because I just got to see him and see him do his Lobo thing, and it was good. It was really, really good. Lobo is also a great foil for Superman.
Yeah.
He's the opposite. Superman was the child of a doomed planet. Lobo doomed his own planet to be the last child. They both have extraordinary power. Superman uses it for altruism. Lobo uses it for irresponsible self-interest, not even practical self-interest. If he saved any of his money from the bounties that he did, he could go and retire, but instead he immediately blows it. It is completely unrestrained id, with only the barest semblance of containment for his choices.
I want to see him just go off the rails. You got Superman, and you get Mongol hires Lobo to bring Superman to his planet, and Superman's all gladiatorial fighting like Thor.
Yeah, they kind of did something like that in the comics. He did end up on War World, and they're doing that with the Authority right now. And it's actually a good story. They're sort of challenging his ethics. And they also did some a prelude to this in Rebirth, I think it was, in the Rebirth stories. The Future State. Sorry, Future State. So they previewed it in Future State, and now they're doing the story. And it is a good story, and it's one that it's his World War Hulk, basically. Yeah. What is he like under these circumstances? Do his ethics still hold up? They're asking the right questions. I'm hoping the answers are as well thought out as the questions, but I haven't finished it, so we'll see.
And I think Thor proved you can go that far with comic book movies, and people will love it. They don't have to be super serious. I mean, it's fine that it's taken seriously, but you can have these weird elements. You don't have to just stick to on Earth, guy is super smart, or General Zod randomly shows up and wants to destroy a whole planet for some reason.
I think one of the things that people ignore about Superman, at least as a possibility in movies, is that he's not immune to physics. Like, if you throw a car at him and he's not looking and bracing himself with his flight power, he still only weighs what he weighs. Yeah. The car would still like send him flying if the Hulk threw it, or if there is a crossover. But if another Kryptonian threw it, if he's not prepared and using his powers to resist something, with a physics component, then he can look like he's being thrown around and look like he's in peril. You don't need someone who can actually like punch through his super Kryptonian skin in order to still like negate his, keep him off balance, negate his ability to formulate a plan. And that's the perfect thing for Lex to do. Get him into a factory where you've built everything to like throw him off guard, hit him from different angles, immobilize him for, in different ways. Nothing lasts for that long because as soon as he finds a countermeasure, it's over. Yeah. But someone like Luthor could think up enough plans to hold him off until whatever his real plan is complete.
Did you ever see that post? Someone posted it. I think you could actually write not only this comic, but this movie. That Clark Kent's journalism is getting him like to... he's getting the answers that he shouldn't be getting to. So the CIA or something tries to whack him because he's exposing too many secrets, but they keep failing because they don't realize that he's Superman.
That'd be awesome. And you can even do it because maybe he's getting too close to the Suicide Squad to Waller. Yeah. She would definitely send someone to murder him. And if she doesn't know yet that Clark Kent is Superman, she's someone evil enough to try to have him murdered.
That storyline, I think, would be sick. Superman's just like, what are they doing? They're all listening to him from a van.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
It's like, why is this guy always on top of what we're doing?
He just happened to turn the corner as you fired your bullet. This is too lucky. Yeah. But no, that would be a great story. There's a lot of good things that you could do that... I don't know what it is with Hollywood, man. They have like one type of story they want to tell you, and that's it. Anything outside of that, and they get scared that 5 people might not get it.
Even when they try to tell a different story, they don't follow through with it. Like in the Batman versus Superman fight, like the only reason Batman isn't instantly annihilated is that Superman decides not to do so. But they don't even really convey that message very well in that fight. Like, I mean, Superman at one point does say it, but it doesn't come across like as that's what's really going on. It comes across like Batman keeps surprising him with new things, and I'm like, no, if Superman wants to end the Batman-Superman fight, it's real fast.
He can fly up and fly down and just land, and the shockwave would wreck anything within miles.
I think he could literally toss him around the planet and catch him again without moving, which would kill him.
He could grab him, run around the planet, and then just stop. Actually, he could run 1 foot at super speed and stop, and like whatever armor you're wearing isn't going to matter because your neck will break or your brain will turn to jelly inside your skull. Yeah.
I want to see like those type of things like done to the utmost. Obviously not to Batman, but like Invincible, the cartoon where Omni-Man just takes Invincible and holds him face first in front of a subway train. Just like,
yeah, that was bleak.
I obviously, you don't want that much. I mean, if they want to do it, whatever, but I want to see things that like showcase their real power like that, like in movies. Like I literally want to see Flash punch someone, run back in time, punch them before he punched them the first time, and keep doing that for like an entire day to just confuse somebody that's like like dark, just like to confuse Darkseid entirely. He's like, have I been getting punched for 12 hours? Like when he finally stops. I don't know what just happened.
I mean, if you're going to say that these characters are scientific and have some like physics component to how their powers work, go all the way. Get an actual physicist or a team of them and figure out what would happen in some of these cases. Be like, all right, could he just, run around the Earth and create enough friction and static electricity to just zap the atmosphere and kill everything on it. Whether if he's not careful or intentionally. Or I think that's kind of why people like The Boys and Invincible. And if you've never read it, Irredeemable.
I have not.
It's worth reading, and it's along the same lines as these sort of injustice-y alternate. What if someone had these powers but was not responsible with them? What are some things that could happen? And it just, people want to ask the question. The curiosity is there. It's like with the Green Lantern ring. Couldn't you just make adamantium armor out of it? Couldn't you use the green ring to synthesize the atoms of an unbreakable substance, of Uru metal, of promethium? Like if you're the most dangerous person with a Green Lantern ring would be Professor Stein, the alternate personality within Firestorm, a chemist who actually knows how all these things work, and could, if he got the information, be able to, all right, have the Green Lantern ring create an adamantium suit of armor, over that a promethium layer, over that an Uru layer, so it's immune to magic, and make it so it can also be flexible like Vision is, even though he's made of vibranium, because of how it's woven together. Like all of these things are interesting and possible, and maybe it's OP, but then you save it for something, and then you come up with a reason why you can't do it again, or why it's costly, or why it's dangerous, or why someone thinks no one should have this power.
But you can write those OP stories and still write them incredibly well. I always go back to Kingdom Come, because every superhero's at their pinnacle, and the story's still amazing. Like the fact that Flash has become just so fast that he's constantly everywhere in his city all at one time. And the Spectre can't even spy on him because he's moving so fast that he's technically in alternate dimensions. You can see what's going on. Pulls the Spectre out of the alternate dimension. There was no part of that story that sucked. Kingdom Come is amazing, and all the superheroes are ridiculously overpowered at that point. Even Batman has become a bat empire.
Yeah, he's got the robots doing his dirty work, and you're sort of why didn't you just do that before? It's a lot easier on your knuckles.
He became OCP.
He did. They look like Ed 209s, the big bat robots. Or they had that vibe, even though they looked more like the Batmobile in robot form, which would make an awesome Transformer. Yes. That should happen. Holy crap, I'd buy that.
That should definitely happen. I always thought it would be cool if there was a Green Lantern who had multiple different rings but had multiple personality disorder. Not like one of the super OP ones where they can use all the rings at one time, but where they can only use one ring at one time depending on what personality is present.
That'd be fun. That would be pretty fun.
And it would just be interesting to write and see him getting it his own way, having a good side and an evil side, trying to fight his he's literally his own bad guy in certain situations. It's a lot like Sentry and the Void that way, except they actually split up.
Yeah, I mean, it could kind of be did you see the latest episode of Moon Knight?
I have not.
Never mind.
Okay,
we'll discuss after you see.
I've only seen the first two. I love to binge watch 2 or 3 episodes at a time of a show, so I usually let them build up.
They left a. Did you ever watch Legion on FX?
Yes.
They left a Legion-ish cliffhanger at the end of season 4, and it was glorious.
Interesting. Did you watch that Legion TV show?
Yeah.
That wasn't a bad show, I thought. That kind of just died out.
I loved season 1. I loved 90% of season 2. No, and the end is when they ruined it, because they made the character that you've been rooting for this whole time, the character that was victimized, the character that, a lot of the bad things that he did weren't his fault. He had a parasite in his brain fucking with him, pretending to be his own inner voice that he sometimes could listen to and sometimes didn't. And that like not only screwed up his choices, but screwed up his decision-making ability. And so you have sympathy for him until the end of season 2 when he becomes a rapist. And then you're like, great. Yeah. Now I don't like this guy. Now he's done. Now I don't even want to see the show anymore. But I watched season 3 to watch all the people that were on his team come after him and try to kill him. And you're like, I hate this. That's how I felt. But I watched it because I just had to see it through to the end at that point. Season 1 was one of the best seasons of anything, period.
I agree. I remember loving season 1, not loving season 2 so much, not finishing season 3 because it's just like, meh, I don't care. Are you caught up on From?
I'm not sure if I'm caught up. The last episode I saw ended with Mike from Lost in the lighthouse, or near the lighthouse, in the cave, the same cave that the underdwellers are from, that the wife fell into, and a bus just pulled up with probably a problem.
I think that's the last episode of the season.
Fuck.
I believe.
Oh, that is a fucking cliffhanger.
I love this show, but it is super like Lost, man.
Yes, it is.
This is just like new Lost with Lost characters.
They better keep it going. And if they bring in the actor from who played Ben Linus and who was in Person of Interest, I'd be happy with that too. I don't care. Bring him into the Lost knockoff show. It's already doing pretty good. It's a great concept.
There's a new show too I just saw called Outer Range on Amazon Prime that is super good.
I've heard good things about it. Somebody told me it was a Western, and I was like, eh.
It is.
And like, it's a Western with aliens. And I'm like, now you have my attention.
That's the thing, is I don't know if there are aliens. There's just like, I'll give you this premise because it's like on the, like if you watch the preview, you'll see it. There's like, it starts out slow, but I mean like methodically, like intentionally slow.
Mm-hmm.
The good kind of slow, not the bad kind of slow. Because the show is slow. But it's like a farmer on his land, and he finds like basically just a void in one of his fields. Like it is just a pit that appears to be bottomless. And there's like weird like properties, like there's just like constant like dirt being like slowly pulled in, and there's like this weird like filmish thing on the top. Like it just makes no sense. And he doesn't like tell anybody about it. He's kind of keeping it under wraps. And then like basically random farmer things happen for 2 episodes, but there's always this like void. And it's like slowly like calling to him, like you like see him like going out at night to it, stuff like that. And then you get this weird like temporal thing happening at the end of episode 2. And that's like all that's happened so far. But there's been no aliens or anything, but I mean, aliens would make sense.
So to discuss the bias I have against Westerns, I watched a ton as a kid. I watched Bonanza. I watched The Rifleman. I watched
Myself
House
as
on
well.
the Prairie.
My stepdad, I did as well. My stepdad absolutely loves Westerns. It's pretty much all he watches. So even to this day, if I go over to my parents' house, like, there's a Western on in the background. Like,
even Lone Ranger, like all those, and I enjoyed them. But now, like, the concept doesn't, how do I put it? Like, it's sort of like, MASH, super well-written show, super entertaining show. But if you're just walking by the TV and you're a kid, it just looks like a bunch of green and gray stuff moving around. Like, the palette is very bland.
It does not draw you in, although it is on my like top 10 favorite TV shows of all time.
MASH, I did not get an appreciation for it until I was past high school age, and I could kind of appreciate it.
You know where I got an appreciation for it? No, before we go on.
Yeah.
I used to have a TV. I'm sure you remember them. It was a box TV, and it had like the double knobs. Like it had like 1 through 13 on the top, and it had like 1 through 50 on the bottom.
Mhm.
And the bottom knob, all that it really did was like successfully get you like different regions of the 1 through 13. And the only channel I could get to come in on the TV was Fox 31. But I could get different Fox 31s to come in. Like I could get Fox 31 from Denver, Fox 31 from Wyoming, Fox 31 from Kansas City by turning that bottom knob. So, as a kid growing up, when I watched TV, all I would watch would be like The Simpsons, like 4 different times because I would just track it through. Like it would be on a certain time on Denver's Fox 31, and Kansas City and Wyoming, and the same thing with MASH at night. So I had no options, but I just started to really like love the show after a while, to the point to where I was like, I'm probably one of the only high schoolers that's like staying up to watch MASH like on the planet.
It was so well written that even I mean, there's a reason cartoons are so brightly colored and there's so much screaming and yelling in them and so much running around and movement. And it's because, like, as a kid, that's what your brain is attracted to the things that provide the most stimulus and to use as a source of information. So the things that had less obvious stimulus, even Cheers, which was another show that I loved, but like, they're always in the same spot, in the same 2 angles, the same dark room, the same color, the same palette. Every
also
time.
On Fox 31.
Also on, yes. And I grew to love that one. It's just, as an adult, like, the concept of a Western, of most Westerns, doesn't initially interest me.
I hear you.
So it has to have something else. Like, you put Bruce Campbell in there and aliens and call it Briscoe County Jr., and I'm interested.
Yeah.
You call it Cowboys and Aliens, now I'll watch it. It just, we all have the genres that sort of like hit our hierarchy, and that one's on the lower end. And with so much stuff that is not Western that is interesting, I tend to not dip that far down into my list of interests. But if you say this one's a Western sci-fi, Lost, I had no interest in that show until I found out that this, scripted Survivor show, more scripted Survivor show, actually had like time travel and hatches and smoke monsters. And then I was like, I got to see this. And I got hooked.
I was definitely hooked on Lost for a while. Lost went on for so long not answering questions, though, in such a frustrating way that I got unhooked after a while. But then I did go back and watch everything, and then was not fulfilled with the outcome.
Yeah. It sucks when you understand a little bit about like the real world reasons for that, and how in like season 2, midway through season 2 or 3 or something, like the writer's strike happened, and they were just like, we only have this many pages of stuff written. How are we going to do this? And they just came up with pulp style cliffhangers.
Yeah.
Which, they've worked since the old pulps were a thing, and they work now. It's just they never had really a payoff for it.
That's what I'm hoping isn't what's happening in From.
Dude, Lost is a cautionary tale to every show that has come since then. Nobody wants that. No one wants to be compared equally or negatively to the last part of Lost. They've basically, it's like Game of Thrones is now. That is a lesson that needs to be learned by writers. You do not stink up the last season the way they did. Betray the characters, ignore the story, ignore everything you built up to that point, make nonsensical things that are like only logical by the most ridiculous thread you have to follow to accept it. And that's not to say we're still not going to get bad writing, but when someone tries to make a show like Lost, I'm sure in every pitch room they have to say, so it's like Lost, but we're not going to stink like they did at the end. We're going to actually answer things, or we're not going to make so many mysteries that we can't possibly answer them.
Yeah. And I think it's like, man, there should almost be like, how like engineers have like an oath they take, so like doctors do as well. There needs to be one for writers, where it's like you are incumbent to your boss like last. Once you have created something popular. I figure it goes like your employer, next in line of importance is the fan base, next in line of importance is the character themselves. Because if the fan base exists, it's because they like the characters. And if the show exists for you to have a boss, it's because they like the characters of the story. And like once you betray like the characters of the story, like you're inevitably doing wrong to the other two groups as well. Yeah. Whether they want to see it that way or not. I would so much rather be a writer and get fired from a show because I wouldn't take the show in a direction that it wouldn't go than like, yeah, be a writer who wrote like the worst season of Lost or the worst season of like Game of Thrones and just be like a meme for 8 billion YouTube channel videos about how bad your writing sucks. I'm like,
yeah, have classes devoted to how not to be like you.
Yeah.
The last season of Game of Thrones did so much damage to their brand. They had like 5 prequel series they were planning to do, and they all got axed except maybe 1, possibly 2. And I think they're still like up in the air. But even then, there's still a few people who enjoyed it and just were along for the ride and were, yeah, maybe sometimes people are just stupid and that's what happens, and it didn't bother them. And that's fine.
We just gotta like, I think the easiest thing, like, stop the anticlimactic endings or fight scenes. Like, you can't. This is not the worst part of the last season of Lost. There are far worse parts, but you can't have this build up with this bad guy for 7 seasons and then have him get stabbed by a semi-trained 17-year-old assassin chick. Like, and that ends the whole thing.
Yeah, like, hundreds of years old supernatural being.
Yeah.
Who just drops. I mean, he's this big threat the whole time, and boom, that's it.
Turns out we just had to stab him with this funky metal, and it's all it took. Come on.
That's all. We just needed kryptonite.
Honestly, I think the Harry Potter books end the same way terribly. Like, if you read those books, it's like build up, build up, build up, build up. There's 1 page of fight scene, and then fucking Voldemort's dead. I'm like, what the fuck? There's like 85,000 pages that led up to this fight.
Yeah.
Harry gives him the old winkaroo in this.
No one is good at everything, man. And I think that just because you're selling millions of books doesn't mean that an editor shouldn't still step in and say, can we do this part a little better?
Dude, if I mean, maybe this is just something people don't do, but if I had written Harry Potter and I got to that fight scene and I couldn't think of any other way to end it besides a 1 page, like, not even, it's like a paragraph 1 battle, I'm calling other writers at that point.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm being like, hey, this book's going to make $80,000 trillion. Do you want like a small wheelbarrow full of money to help me sculpt out this last fight? We'll put your name on the book. Nobody's going to say no.
Dude, and even then, like, writers will help each other out. My wife went to England for studying abroad when she was in college many years ago, and she went to a bar where they actually had the table where C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and some other writer who I don't remember now, but those are the ones that matter to me, used to sit around and discuss their stories together.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? Narnia did not have shitty endings. Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, no shitty endings there. Like, everything, whatever complaints people have about how much walking and songs about cheese there are, no one got to the end and was like, man, what a ripoff. You know?
Yeah. Some people are like, why did the Eagles just fly them up? But we know why.
Well, you don't get 3 books out of it. You don't get 3 books out of it. So that's why. And I understand that. If you had done the Eagles, then Tolkien would have come up with another problem for them.
Which is why they couldn't have done it. that to me has never been a gripe, but that's like the only gripe I've heard about like The Hobbit. But it's like you can always find something to bitch about. But in general, The Lord of the Rings is a fairly masterfully written,
extremely enjoyable
set of books, and I can't understand why. I did buy. Alan Moore did like a 90. I don't know how long it is because I haven't started it yet. But he did like a writing course through the BBC. I just purchased it. I will be going through it to try to see what that man has to say about writing because he is one of my favorite comic book writers, even though he is crazy.
You mean the wizard Alan Moore?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's him, like Matt Kent, Neil Gaiman. I think those are my three favorites. Matt Kent is, I know, nowhere, doesn't logically in that order, but if you haven't read Matt Kent's comic books, I think you're doing yourself a service.
Yeah, let me know. I'll find some. I'll check them out.
Dude, read Mind Management. It's so good.
Check it out.
Mind MGMT. Or he did another book about, it's like an underwater murder mystery called Depth, DEPTH, or Department H, depending, which I actually have 2 full runs of now. If you want to borrow one of the full runs of comics.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll give that
or even have, because they're not really worth anything. I just bought the second run because on the stream sale at I Want More Comics, they had a full run that had the first issue signed by him and his wife because his wife did the artwork. So I was like, fuck it, it's $25. I will pay that for the first issue anyway. Nice. Jeff Lemire's up there too, honestly, as far as like modern day writers go.
I hear good things about him. I'm trying to think of what he's written though.
He wrote Sweet Tooth as a very obvious one, which I read many years before the show came off on what's his name in Boulder? He runs Time Warp Comics. I don't know. He's a very well known comic book store owner. He suggested it to me when it like first came out. I walked into, I remember Time Warp Comics, and I picked that up and read that. It's very good. He wrote like it's a graphic novel. It's not, wasn't in like a comic book run at all. Invisible Man story that I also picked up. That's incredibly good. He's done some superhero stuff, but he did like Black Hammer, Essex County. He's wrote Moon Knight. He did Cinder, Gideon Falls. Evidently a book called Underwater Welder, which I have not read. But I do know that's a very dangerous job, so.
Seems like I'll have to pick up some more of his stuff. I mean, I know people that love him that are always talking about how good Jeff Lemire is. And he was here at Dink before the pandemic, in the last Dink before the pandemic.
Yeah, I wanted to go just because he was there, but I couldn't get it off.
And he was just a very approachable individual, really easy to talk to. And I was with somebody who really loved his stuff, and so they chatted for a while, and he was just, what I observed was that he was just genuinely happy that someone appreciated his work and was happy to answer all their questions. And that's all you can ask of somebody.
That's how he comes across. Yeah, he's a fantastic writer, I think. And he was the guy that I say I like his artwork, and your one friend was like, I don't, because he draws very simple style, but I still enjoy it.
Oh man.
Well, we have divergently gone off track yet again. But it is about that time that we decided we were going to stop recording. We're actually stopping under an hour and a half this time, people.
Amazing.
We have successfully done so.
You didn't get your money's worth this time, but I think it was quality over quantity.
I think so too. Yeah, it's definitely better. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and end this recording. Thank you guys for whoever you are for joining us. like I said, I know Juan's releasing these on Patreon, and then 2 weeks later releasing them to YouTube's for general consumption. So most of you are probably YouTube's viewers. If you guys have any suggestions or comments, YouTube allows you to do that, and I'll start reading them because I think we might have a few.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so again, I'm Doyle. This is AC Canales, and thanks for hanging out. And we will see you in well, I don't know. We'll see you when you see us. How about that? Don't threaten me.
Thanks, everyone.